It looks as if Boris Johnson is likely to become the next Prime Minister. Could you share with any of my listeners outside London your thoughts on his abilities to govern?
Well, firefighters don't have any confidence in Boris Johnson at all. I have to say a number of the candidates in the Tory leadership election have played a role in fire policy in this country. Most famously, in terms of the frontrunner, Boris Johnson, who oversaw the biggest cuts in the London Fire Brigade in history. So he has not been and will not be forgiven by London firefighters for that. And I think that shows a certain ruthlessness of forcing that through. And, you know, in again, based on complacency around the risks of fire.
Yes.
And, of course, we subsequently saw Grenfell. So that's very alarming for us, that approach.
Boris Johnson is the Prime Minister. What's the first thing that goes through your head, Lawrence? Good morning.
The first thing that goes through my head is, please.
Now, I don't know whether that's ecstasy. I don't know whether that's ecstasy and agony. And as someone who's been through certain situations in my life, I've heard both. So, are we happy or are we angry? Are we laughing or are we crying?
Do you know what? I tell you what, you're probably good at what you do.
No,
I actually like this, but you contradict yourself constantly.
Uh-oh.
Constantly.
Uh-oh.
You are constantly contradicting yourself.
Uh-oh.
Now, you say the clowns get results. Of course they get results. And you will, listen, please, God, come down, pinch me, and tell me that this is just a dream. That this man is going to run our country. I tell you what, if he gets in, I'm leaving. I'm gone. It's over. Listen, it can't get any worse.
Good morning, Boris. This is your number one fan.
I mean, fantastic. Is that apart from Mr. Ferrari?
To my house next Monday and join me on the journey in from Essex through Lower Thames Street and the Embankment.
Oh, right.
And then you may realise that in future, when you give out these contracts, that you need to articulate them a little bit and understand what is actually going on there.
Yeah, Alan, I'm delighted to hear you. I think we've had lots of conversations about this, and I think, Alan, my recollection of, I think this is the noble and learned Lord Sugar.
It is. He's just invited you to his home in Essex on Monday.
I'd love to, and thank you so much, Alan.
Will you allow Lord Sugar to drive you in on Monday?
I'll come if I possibly can. Just a couple of points, Alan. As I've said to you before, first thing is I apologise very much for the delay and inconvenience that you've been experiencing, along with many people coming in from Essex. And my friend Robert Halfon, the government minister, he's been absolutely voluble with me about this problem. I'm well aware of it, and what we are doing is moving as fast as we can to get the cycle superhighways done. It will be much better when it is done, Alan. I'm apologetic to you for the inconvenience that you're experiencing, but once we've got it done, I promise you will love it, and there will be a billiard table smooth cycle superhighway for you to zoom.
Lord Sugar, do you think you'll love it?
I think I fully understand what Boris is trying to do, and I do agree that we've got to try to avoid accidents occurring to cyclists. But, Boris, with the greatest respect, we need to spend more money on educating cyclists.
Yes, no, I agree with that.
And the thing is that you did have a scheme last year where there was a bunch of police I saw in Hyde Park inviting people to come along and be advised about things, what to do. Cyclists think about coming into London to save money, to be fit and all that stuff, but they don't know. Some of them just do not understand.
Alan, I'm not disagreeing. I'm not disagreeing with you for a minute. And you're right to point out to Operation Safeway we've been running. We run it actually intermittently. It sometimes the cops. In fact, they were out in force this morning. I saw along Holborn. Trying to, they had a bike theft initiative going there. They do get you now if you jump the lights. That we really try to find people if you get on the pavement, if you frighten pedestrians, if you behave irrationally with motorists. We try and zap you as a cyclist. We come down very hard. I think we've dished out 40. I mean, in the first burst of Safeway, we had 14,000 penalty notices issued, the vast majority of them to cyclists. And indeed, and it's one of the reasons why I get flack from cyclists as well as from everybody else, because they feel that we're now being too tough.
Well, I mean, I've been told to shut up in the House of Lords a couple of times by insisting that cyclists have to have some form of identification on them, because, you know, effectively...
Well, you speak. Sorry.
You know, they can't get nicked, because if they've got no identification on them, then how do you know who they are? Well,
you speak there for a great many motorists, and it's actually one of the things that's come up most regularly on this show, I think, over the last few years, is can't you give them blighters licences? Can't they have numbers on their back? You know, and the trouble with that is it is another, as you appreciate, you're fighter as you are against bureaucracy and red tape. It is another piece of regulation, another piece of legislation, very, very difficult to enforce, and it would actually, I think, lead to I don't know of any country in the world that does it or does it successfully.
America.
No, you can ride a bike in
America.
America. You can ride a bike in America without having a license.
If you break the rules there, you have to have a form of identification of you, and get this, the police will confiscate your bike from you there and then.
Well, no, that I'm in favour of. But in America, in America, don't forget, Alan. In America, don't forget that. And as far as I can remember, they shoot you for jaywalking. So I'm not going to. I don't think I'm necessarily going to.
Under what terms can someone have their bike confiscated? What's that for?
Well, at the moment,
would you like to see?
I think I said the other day in City Hall in Mayor's Question Time, I'd be perfectly happy with an arrangement whereby people who jump the lights or terrified pedestrians by mounting the pavement and were apprehended by the law actually had their bicycles confiscated. In fact, I wouldn't mind if they were impounded and auctioned for charity or whatever. But that, I'm told, is an infringement of human rights,